Have you ever wondered how our childhood experiences shape our need for perfection? Perfectionism is a huge issue in our society, and more people struggle with it than we realize. And we push ourselves to be flawless and to meet these impossible standards. Have you ever really stopped to think about why there's such a strong desire to be perfect? Is it because we live in a high achieving culture, or is there something more at play? And I've met countless people who are perpetual high achievers. They're always pushing themselves to be better, faster, stronger. And I was one of those people. And here's how that came to be for me and them as well. So my perfectionistic tendencies started from the beliefs I developed about myself all the way back in my early childhood years. So I had a stepmom in the picture, and I really felt like I was being replaced by her and that my dad loved her more than he loved me. So I went into, without really realizing it when you're a little kid, to perfection mode, thinking that that would be the way that I would get attention or be loved or be noticed. And so I then carried this trait into college as well, because I was in a relationship with an abusive high school boyfriend. I didn't go to college right out of high school because of that relationship. And so the entire time I was in that relationship, I was labeled as the black sheep, the rebel, the defiant teenager. All of these negative labels had been put upon me because of that relationship. And so therefore, I felt like I had to prove that I wasn't that person when that relationship ended. And so I went into perfectionistic overdrive like you wouldn't believe. So when I went to college, because I didn't start college right out of high school, so I was 21 when I started college at a local community college, but I was 23 when I started like a traditional college, so to speak. And so at this point, I'm anywhere from 3 to 5 years older than most of the kids in my class, because I'm still in a lot of first year classes. And I felt insecure by that, because I thought, I should be farther along by now. I should be pretty much getting ready to graduate, not just basically starting on the journey. And so I really wanted to prove, not just to myself, but to my parents, but to my peers and my professors as well, that I was smart, I was capable, that I wasn't a black sheep, that I wasn't a rebel, that I wasn't bad, that I wasn't anything negative that I had believed myself to be from that experience. And so I took 16 credits a semester, which is 4 more credits than what they recommend. I pulled all straight A's. I only had maybe 2 B's my entire time at college. And so finally it got to the point where one of my professors pulled me aside and basically had a conversation with me, asking why I was striving for perfection, and that she told me I didn't need to prove myself to anyone because she saw my potential. My other professors saw my potential, and then I could just show up and be who I was and take that pressure off of myself to be the perfect student, that I would be a great teacher when I graduated with my teaching degree, and that they could see that, and I was a great role model for the students who were younger than me. And it was really great and reassuring to hear that, to the point where it pretty much brought me to tears, because I don't think I was really aware of the fact that I was trying so hard to be so perfect. And so when she had that conversation with me, it gave me permission, the permission I couldn't give myself, actually, to pump the brakes on trying to be perfect, and to just show up and still do good work and still have those values to put my best foot forward. But I didn't need it to be perfect. I didn't need it to be something that would get an A+ every single time. It would be okay if I get an A- or a B+, but to just really show that I did know what I was talking about, that I was learning the concepts, and do it in a way that wasn't so perfect. So now let me tell you about Sandy. She is a client of mine, and she is a perfectionistic person when it comes to her outfits and her office space. So she has multiple closets in her house now that she's an empty nester, and each closet is specific for a certain type of clothing. So she is a huge football fan. She has all of her football outfits, her jerseys, things like that in one closet. All of her work clothes that are black and white are in another closet. Her work clothes that are pink and purple are in another closet, and so on and so on. And so she has so many closets full of clothes, and she has to have the perfect outfit, coordinated down to the color of her shoes, to the color of her accessories, to the color of her handbag. You name it, it has to match. And she also is very much a perfectionist when it comes to the way that her office space looks. So she has specific notebooks with specific pens, and they have to go in a specific place, and she has organizers in her drawer, and all of these things have to be just so. And if they're not, and they're just slightly out of place, it sends her into sheer panic mode. And this has a lot to do with her childhood and the way that she grew up. So she has parents who suffered from alcoholism and drug addiction, and there was marital problems with her parents, and then divorce, and then step parents in the picture. And there were a lot of things that did not feel like they were within her control when she was growing up. And so she turned to these perfectionistic behaviors to feel like there was some sort of control. And so now, as an adult, she thinks that these same things still need to happen. And so because it's a habit, it's part of her identity and who she is as a person, because she's been doing it for so long. And in so our work together, we worked on making sure that the pattern of perfectionism was actually still a serving pattern for her and not one that is no longer serving. And so she recognized where she could let go a little bit and not have to have things just so in order for them to still be just right. And so that's another example of where our childhood experiences impacts us in adulthood with being a perfectionist. And so now let me tell you about Darlene. This is actually my mom. And she grew up in a household that was extremely abusive, not just with her biological parents, but in the foster care system too, and also grew up with extreme poverty. So she was actually taken from her parents by the state when she was around 10, along with her siblings, and placed in foster care. And so in the foster care system, she also experienced poverty and lack, and really abusive behavior from foster parents. And that led her to believe that she wasn't good enough, she wasn't lovable, she wasn't worthy. And so she went into extreme perfectionistic mode too. And I see this now with her when she's doing something that's a creative project, like for instance, quilting. My mom is an amazing quilter, but she doesn't see that gift that she has. And so she's so quick to point out the flaws that she makes when she's doing a project, and I can't see the flaws. My kids can't see the flaws. No one can see the flaws except for her. And so she wants everything to be so precise and just so. And from the person who didn't make it, everything does look just precise and just so. But this also shows up in a lot of things that my mom does. She wants everything to be perfect. So perfect family outings, perfect home decor, everything. And so she goes into this, I'll say, overdrive with the need for perfection. And she does not want anything to be left unturned, left out, anything like that. And if it isn't perfect, then she beats herself up for it and thinks that there's something that she could have done better or differently so that it would be perfect. And so these are all examples of where perfectionism shows up from our experiences in childhood. The moment everything can change is when we realize that we're not trying to be the best. We're actually wanting to feel worthy. And I'm going to repeat that. We are perfectionists because we want to feel worthy. And we're trying to prove we're enough. We're trying to erase the scars of our childhood trauma. And yes, this can be liberating, and it can also be terrifying at the same time. Because when we recognize that we have the power to change and heal and grow, it allows us to dismantle the toxic beliefs that are holding us back. And really, recognizing why we're being perfectionists is the first step. And the next step is to embark on the journey of healing and personal growth. It means that we have to acknowledge the wounds of our past. We have to work through the emotions that have been buried for so long and developing a more loving and accepting relationship with ourselves. And it's not easy. Let me tell you, I've been there, done that. It is really hard sometimes, and it feels really awful. But it's necessary, because if we want to be free from the shackles of perfectionism, it's a journey we're going to have to take. If you found this helpful in any way, please feel free to share it with a friend who could also benefit from it. But also feel free to leave a comment about your experience with perfectionism and childhood trauma. And if you want more support and you're fairly new to your healing journey, be sure to watch the video about why it's important to have self-compassion while you're on your journey.